Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Poker Face Season 1, Episode 2. Another great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, I really love the structure of how the show goes. And obviously, this is only episode 2, so we'll see if they change it up, kind of subvert your expectations. But the whole point of like every episode, it seems, at least so far, it's going to start off in media res, where you kind of get a little background of some of these characters, then a murder or whatever happens, and then you rewind and find out, oh, like Charlie has already been here. She's already met some of these characters, and now like then it becomes like her like figuring things out. But yeah, we get introduced to like I think we start off with Jed watching Sarah. So you're like, okay, so this is going to deal with a stalker situation. Then we meet Damien, who works at the Subway. He's a TikToker, likes to make sandwiches, kind of want to put some positivity out there in the world. He left the Marines like a year and a half ago and try to figure out what he wants to do with his life going forward. He wants to, service and help people, do good. But also he's like, yeah, maybe I could try out the whole YouTuber thing. Because for him, he's like, it's not about the likes and stuff like that for him. It's just like, once again, trying to put some positivity out there in the world. And so he stops by the convenience store where Sarah works. And Sarah and him, there's definitely a link there. I don't know if there was like anything romantic viewing between them, or whether they were just good friends. But then there's the Jed of it all, which kind of he reads creepo. Even Damien's like, yeah, man, I kind of got that vibe about him. But Sarah's like, oh, Jed, he's kind of innocent. Yeah, he comes off weird, but it's fine. Because she's also trying not to be rude. But, like the fact is, like, Jed is up there literally, like, full stalker, obsessive, binoculars and everything. And Damien went up there, saw him watching, like, okay, you're watching Sarah. Because he's like, oh, I'm going to be up there on the top of the roof of the auto garage. And he's going to be watching like some a meteor shower or whatever that's coming by. You have Damien going up there with like kind of a knife in his back pocket. You're like, oh boy. And, he tries to keep it cool. He tries to have a calm conversation with Jed, being like, hey, yo, like, you need to stay away from Sarah. You're acting like a creeper and stuff like that. And he's like, dude, I get it. Like, I used to be in the military, and I was kind of scared. I was like, oh, man, it's about to pop off the way it is. And, like, especially, like, when they started getting, Jed started, like, getting pissed at him. It's like, you're the one, you're, like, calling him out. Like, you're the one that was in the military. You're a killer, yada, yada, yada. And Damien's reaching for the knife. I was like, oh, boy. But then Damien grabs him and he's like, hey, I get it. What you're suffering through right now is monotony. It's just kind of like the everyday life here. It's getting to you and you're becoming very obsessive. But the fact of the matter is you can get out of here. Like, don't feel like you're going to be trapped in here. Sometimes when you kind of get stuck in a place, you just feel like this is your entire world, even though as small as it is. But it's like, yeah, there's so much of the world out there for you to see. You just have to wait for your opportunity to get out there. And that's the thing. What Damien was saying was penetrating. It was working on Jed. I'm like, okay. I was like, wow, okay. Fact is, you didn't have to pull a knife on him. You were able to talk him down. I was like, hey, this is pretty dope. I was like, okay. So this isn't going the way I thought it was. And it wasn't until Damien stood in front of him, I'm like, you're pretty close to the edge of this roof, aren't you? He's going to do, like, I thought at some point he's just randomly going to push you. But the moment, like, they're talking, because they were having a whole conversation about luck. Jed believes, like, there's, like, a limited supply of luck. Either you've got it or you don't. But then, like, Damien's perspective is like, luck is just one part of it. He's like, you got to make stuff happen for yourself. He's like, even my successful line, like, dude, that's just me putting in the time and effort. Like, you got to work on it. Like, luck isn't really all that it's cracked up to be. And then immediately after saying that, he wins $25,000 from a scratch off. And in that moment, Jez look at him, especially when he's like, oh my God, I won this $25,000. Oh man, wait till I tell you, oh Sarah, and he pushes him off the roof. I was like, yep. Like I said, the moment he got in front of Jed and was like, the way you're positioned, like, he's going to push you off the roof. I didn't know that particular thing was going to set him off. I didn't know what was going to set him off to push him, but makes sense because he's like, yeah, we just had this conversation about luck, and it feels like you're getting all the luck and I'm the one without it. Plus you're also bringing up Sarah because, like, Sarah likes you, you like her, but I like her, but Damien wasn't dead. When his back was turned, his back was turned, Damien slashed like his leg, and then he bashed Damien in the head with a crowbar, put him in the back of a truck, But I didn't really, I was like, because him and Damien were talking about it earlier. He's like, obviously, whoever's driving that truck is doing something suspicious, because the fact is they got the truck over there out of the sight line of other security cameras and stuff. So I didn't really piece it together until he put Damien's body back there. Also whacked him in the head just to make sure, like, there was some blood, I guess some blood spray around the truck too, to leave even more evidence to be like, yes, the murder definitely happened here. But then he went back and he saw the person getting into the truck, see like the lock was broken, and then they didn't do anything. The moment I ran into the truck, I was like, right, you're up to something illegal. So he knows you're going to leave with the body, because you can't call the cops without, fucking up your whole situation. And he's smiling until they pull up to the auto body shop, and you're like, oh, what the hell are they doing? And they did it just to dump the body there. But then Jed turns on the security footage that he had turned off earlier, because I guess that's his way of like, so his uncle doesn't know that he's out there like getting on top of the roof, because there's a whole bunch of bottle caps up there. So he's up there like a lot. He's probably up there like every night, but to kind of hide it from his uncle, he turns off the security footage. So it wasn't even about the Damien and of it all. He benefited from it. So, but now he's benefiting by turning it back on and catching what we later on find out is Marge disposing of the body. So, yeah, then we rewind and, find out, Charlie landing here and, cleaning up a little bit in the bathroom where she meets Marge, and Marge is kind of in her business, but they're kind of trying not to be in each other's business. It's like, yo, don't take ibuprofen while you're bleeding. It's just going to make you bleed more. She's like, yeah, thanks for the advice. And it's like, I'm leaving now. Don't follow me. And then just that, I love just how it was filmed too. Her standing there, and then she looks up, and it's like she's seeing the bright light, and then she passes out from blood loss, because she's been dealing with that for like a week. She hasn't stopped enough to like properly tend to the wound. And so Marge took her back to the truck. Because the moment we saw Marge, and just the way she was dressed, even though we didn't get a good look at her in the security footage, I was like, it's definitely Marge's truck. Marge is the one that dumped Damien's body. And I really like that friendship immediately hitting it off. You kind of got this weird vibe from Marge, but Marge turned out to be pretty dope. And in fact, she actually gave Charlie a lot of great advice, because Marge is someone that's off the radars and stuff. She's like, you can't find anything on me. Basically, she's kind of been on the run since she was like 16. She's like, yo, I took like money from my uncle, and I pissed on like his favorite chair, and I ran, and he did everything he could to try and track me down, but gave her the advice of like, you don't want to leave an electronic trail for someone to find you. Like, for example, don't use your credit card, because the moment you do that, like, someone is going to be able to track you. It's like ATMs. It's like, she's like, the moment I used the ATM, my uncle immediately tracked me down 4 hours later. And immediately, you have Charlie being like 4 hours, knowing like, okay, if I ever desperately need to use the ATM, I have a 4 hour window before, like, they come looking for me. So they're able to track me down. So that's what I thought was so beautiful, because a lot of that advice Marge gave her is going to help Charlie in the long run. Because she's like, basically, everywhere you go, get a side gig. Because that way, like, you always have money on hand. Don't have a bank account, stuff like that. That way you can just always, like, have money on you and a side hustle that keeps you, without there really being any paper trail for people to really follow and trace back to you. Because all this advice is going to be key and paramount for Charlie going forward. Because Charlie has street smarts, but even then, it's like you've never been in this type of situation before, so you don't really know ahead of time how to prepare yourself for it. So Marge gave her the lowdown. I also appreciate when they were in the truck, Marge was like, so I'm getting a vibe like this isn't going to be a hookup, and Charlie's like, yeah, no, I don't think so. She's like, all right, let's stop at a restaurant. You can get 3. It's like 3 of what? 3 of everything. And it's just like, that was actually really, once again, Marge ended up being an MVP in that capacity. And then poor Charlie wanting to stay at the diner, but the lady was like, yo, I'm closing up. It says 24 hours. I don't know what to tell you. I'm closing up. It's like, well, is there somewhere back there I can go to sleep? And she's like, no. So I was like, all right, fine. And so the next time we see Charlie, she's sleeping on a picnic table. I'm like, really, Charlie? Like, that's why. I mean, hey, you got to do what you got to do, because the closest motel, well, the one in town got burned down, and the closest one is like a couple miles away. So it's like, well, fuck that. And yeah, wakes up to a buzzard, and she's like, hey, I get it. I look like I'm dead, but no, like, fine, the picnic table is yours. Comes into town and finds out about Marge. And I love the little details, because she's like, oh man, Marge did that. damn, that sucks. She's like, well, I mean, she had Roscoe, and immediately you're like, that's an important thing. She knows that Marge had Roscoe, so she's assuming that Marge shot the dude, shot Damien. But it's like, then it's not until later on when she finds out over the radio, yeah, Damien was bludgeoned. She's like, wait, what? She knew something didn't feel right, but the moment she's like, wait, bludgeon, why would she bludgeon him when she had Roscoe? Because she had made the whole point of she used to have Mace, but the problem is that like she ended up like spraying herself by accident when she was like, I think like if she was testing it out or something like that, and she's like, yeah, I basically kept crying for like a month. Plus also you have to get in close range for it, so having Roscoe is kind of a nice equalizer. But either way, at the time, because she's also getting her car repaired at the same body shop that Jed works at, and I thought was so interesting when they like brought up the whole Damien thing of like him breaking into Marge's truck, but like Jed's uncle was like, yeah, I don't see, he's such a good kid, like I don't see Damien do it. And then Jed's trying to besmirch his character, but like, oh, maybe he needed money. And then it was like yeah, like he never won the lottery. And you could tell Charlie picked on it. She was like, wait, what? And she just let it go because Charlie said this in the first episode, this important thing and interesting note, kind of like this, the downside to her superpower being like, because people lie all the time and being able to tell people lie sucks because it's just all around you. It's like white noise all around you being like, oh, you're lying, you're lying. But she's like, it's never the important things people lie about. It's the stupid shit. And for her, that was a moment where she was probably like, why lie about that? It's like, that's a stupid thing to lie about, whatever. And it's not until she talks to Sarah later on and she's like, Sarah's like, yeah, Damien never won. And then she sees her face is like, wait, you're telling the truth. So why the fuck is it when Jed brought that up, he was lying? Huh? She's like, yeah, I'm trying to scratch my brain about it because obviously that's the truth, but why was it a lie when Jed? I was like, I love the inconsistency there. That's a very key important detail. But because initially Charlie was going to leave after like she used her ATM to, got the money out to pay for the repairs and stuff, and she was going to leave because she's like, well, I'm on a 4-hour time limit, which I love putting that little asterisk to this episode, making it so like, all right, I have 4 hours. I'm going to give myself at least a less than 4-hour head start because it's going to take like 20 minutes or so to get the vehicle fixed, and she was going to take off. But then like all the stuff started kind of piecing together, falling into place about like, wait, like Marge wouldn't have bludgeoned the dude, something's off here. And it's like, she also like, her and Marge became quick friends, and it's like, once again, all the advice she gave her, it's like, dude, I owe you. Plus she helped like super glue my gunshot wound. So I was like, dude, I kind of owe you to make sure like, yo, figure this out to see if there's something there. Because Marge had that whole thing of like, don't care about people, whatever. But then, you have Charlie being like bullshit when once again her bullshit right off went off. But also it's like, I'm living proof of that because you ended up helping me. So obviously it's like, Charlie wanted to pay it forward. And I think it's also just in Charlie's nature probably just to try and help people. And I think that was already in her to begin with. And especially when she hits it off with people, so. And obviously we saw it with the whole Natalie thing, wanting to get justice for Natalie. But even before Natalie's murder, she was like helping Natalie, trying to, that was my friend, I'm going to help you out with the whole Jerry of it all and trying to do that stuff for you and try to be there for you. So it's just like, that's once again just in Charlie's nature to help out. So obviously going to the auto body shop and seeing that the security footage had been messed with, but Jed just lied to his uncle. Once again, he had already set this in motion because he would turn the security cameras off every once in a while because he didn't want his uncle to know what he was doing on top of the auto body shop and just didn't want to be bothered. And so he turned it off from time to time. But it worked out for him this time, and especially like the excuse of like, oh yeah, like the wind messes with the circuits and stuff, like that was his like bullshit reason to his uncle, and his uncle believed him. So but it's like, yeah, the inconsistency there because there's like a good, like an hour plus of like footage being gone, plus the angle of the camera was a little different. We saw when Jed was disposing of Damien's body, like, yes, the auto body shop, mechanic shop, camera wasn't on, but like across the street, like the mini mart one was. But the problem is the angle of it only catches like in front of the store. It doesn't catch any of the street. So you're like, because in the beginning when you see that, you're like, oh, okay, there's at least data, and he wasn't counting for that. I don't know if Jed already knew that security footage wouldn't like matter it seemed like it was never a concern of his. So I mean, yes, like it could just be like, yeah, you didn't have that foresight because it was a crime of passion type of situation. It was the heat of the moment. But I'm also wondering, did he already know ahead of time of, or did he luck out in that regard, or did he know ahead of time of like, yeah, that security camera footage isn't going to reach that far, you know? So like that, the camera's placement will only like face like the immediate parking lot and not like out there give a street view. So he luckily didn't get caught on that view. Then there was the subway footage, but the problem is like there is no camera. And I love the whole conversation. Cat toy. It's a cat toy. He's like, why? He's like, I don't know. She's like, dude. He's like, I don't know. A deterrent. She's like, all right, fine. I'm gonna move past this, and then sees Damien's thing, his apron, and she's like, is this blood? And the guy's like, no, that's light mayonnaise. She's like, how do you know? He's like, trust me, I know. Because at first I was like, would it be blood? It's like, well, we know Jed grabbed it afterwards, but to be fair, he had already put the gloves on at that point, so like there wouldn't have been like, I was like, the only time you probably would have interacted with any blood is like when he like put Jed's butt, but it's like, yeah, not unless there was blood on like the plastic gloves or something. That's why I was just like, I don't know. So it could have been blood, but it probably was just light mayonnaise because Home Dude was like, I recognize it. Trust me, it's light mayonnaise. So that never came back up. So I'm assuming it really was just that. So you also have when Charlie ends up confronting Jed like the first time when they're like inside like the garage or whatever, because she's taking care of like the wound on his leg with the super glue and everything, and she's talking to him and it's like, oh yeah, you're a smart young kid, and he's talking about what he's going to do with the money. He's going to get out of here. So all that kind of live his life, but he's like, yeah, I missed out on so much, so I'm kind of like, I might be smart and all this stuff, but I don't, I've kind of missed out on so much. But she's like, nah, you're young and smart, and you have money, so it's all gonna work out. And she's like, yeah, so Damien never won. And he was like, yeah, I think we already did kind of discuss that. She's like, no, we kind of really haven't. And he brings it up again, and she could tell like, yeah, you are lying. Then she's also, when she went to the subway, she ended up getting like checking Damien's apron and found the bottle cap. And it's not till she went up to the roof and saw like, okay, here's all these other bottle caps. Because she didn't notice when he popped because Jed took the cap off and he ended up, and he was like on the other side of the room. So she only got the beer. So she didn't see the cap. It's not till she got on the roof and saw all those other caps. And she also found the Hawaii coin, which Sarah said, like had already told her like, oh yeah, like, Damien's ritual was like every night he'd come in and we talked for a little bit. He asked for a different coin associated with a different state and use that as scratch off. This one ended up being Hawaii coin. So it's like, all right. So, and she talks to Jed about it, and Jed confirms like, even he was like, no, I told you I was up here alone. And she's like, oh, that's bullshit. And she tried to catch him by being like, well, yeah, Sarah said that Damien said he would be up here. And then Jed's like, bullshit, and kind of called her out on it, funny enough. But it's like, yes, because she could have had him there, but he called her out on that because it's like, because he knew if he knew Damien was up there on his own, because Damien was like, oh, Sarah, you should leave Sarah alone. He's like, did Sarah say that? He's like, no, that's just me saying it. So he knew like, okay, like Sarah didn't send you here. And also if she was up here, if Sarah knew that, it would have come up earlier before now. But him having to confirm it again, like, oh no, Damien wasn't up here. And she's like, no, bullshit. He's able to get around it. But I'm like, yes, he was up here. I was embarrassed. Like, he was telling me to leave Sarah alone and stuff like that. So it's like, oh, it must have made you pretty angry. And so I'm already blanking on like what she said, because she said something to him in that moment, and he kind of was like pissed at, because I think after that's when he went and cut her brakes, I believe. I can't remember what she said in that moment, whether she is like, you stole Damien's ticket. I think she said it in that moment, but I know she brings it up, might have brought it up later. There's just something she said in that moment. I can't remember what it was. I think it was an accusation in that moment. But then like confronts him later after she went to the convenience store, bought more tickets, and she starts scratching them off. And she's just, I was like, what is she piecing together? Because she's looking at stuff, and then once again, the little things, everything kind of matters. There's the guy who threw away the ticket like earlier that day. She luckily went into the trash can. I was like, oh, you kind of lucked out that was still there, right? And it's like, no, because that wasn't even that. I can't remember if that was, no, that wasn't earlier that day. Was that? or was that the next? I think that might have been the next day because I think Damien was already dead at that point in time. So it was like earlier that day, I believe. So she looked out that, I mean, who knows how often those trash cans get like picked up by trash or whatever, but either by like the garbage trucks and stuff. But either way, she realized the serial numbers obviously are sequential. So it's like, cool, if you bought the ticket when you claimed to have bought it, then your number would be after this because you definitely bought that ticket after this guy threw his away. So your number would be some point after that. The one up there for Damien's is 450 is the last 3 digits. So, and he's like, oh, it could be a misprint, yada, yada, yada. But it's like, nah, Charlie calls him out for it being like, and I also love that she got Sarah involved because Sarah was able to convince him to hand over his ticket. Just being like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry about everything. She's like, yeah, I've been taking birth control. So like, plus Damien's death and, me being on birth control has made me like hormonal. And he was like, yeah, I figured it was you were being hormonal. I was like, and I love like, you could tell she was just like, okay, I'm gonna let that slide because I'm trying to get on your good side right now, you bastard. But yeah. And Charlie confronts him about everything. It's like, I know you did this. This is what I figured. And it's like, she's got to, once again, it is all conjecture. It is all speculation because she didn't have any hard evidence at the time. And even he brings it up. It's like, who are you? You're a stranger. Like, I'm Jed from here. And it's like, we don't really know you. Oh, I know your name, Charlie Cale. Your registration's in the glove box. There's a warrant for a whole bunch of deaths, which now I'm curious that that's supposed to mean. Like, I wonder, did they try and frame, because I thought that was interesting saying like a whole bunch of deaths, not just Sterling's death, even though he did kill himself, but it could easily be a situation to kind of like, spin the ball in their favor. What's his face? Cliff might have spun the story to try to make it seem like Charlie was responsible not only for Sterling's death, maybe even Natalie and Jerry. I mean, it makes it easier for people to have your backing, and when you're able to kind of push that narrative out there, makes it more likely people are after her because like, oh, she definitely committed like multiple murders. So right, one is bad enough, but obviously multiples kind of make people even more raring to like chase after her. So, got to make her seem that much more important to track down. So it's kind of like, yeah, like get out of here before I call the cops. And so she was going to leave, and she felt bad. She's like, damn, Marge, I wanted to have your back. But then it's not till she heard the radio that she goes like, crap. She thought about like, oh, what about the trucks? Marge has a dash cam on the front, but like obviously it only points in the front. So she went to a truck nearby and talked to the guy. It's like, yo, do you have dash cam footage in front? And she's trying to find the guy that was at the restaurant like that night with her and Marge. Didn't really interact with the dude, but she's like, yo, the guy, his truck had this, and she couldn't find the word for fox. I love it because she's like, this type of animal, and people are like, what? I love the bit at the end where everyone's coming together as she's drawing. They're like, well, was it this? Like, no, it can't be that. And it's just like, it's a great project that everyone's working together on. And then she remembers a song and she's singing, she's humming, does anyone know this song? And this one guy busts into the song and then everyone just starts singing it too. I'm like, I love this. And then immediately she sees Cliff's car pull up at the convenience store, and she's like, okay, the guy, his call sign is Pickleback. Make sure you talk to him. Make sure they give that footage to the police because I think they got the wrong person. Even when the guy's like, yeah, I figured Marge wasn't the one behind this. So it's like, cool, guys, make sure that happens. And it's like, yeah, you don't, and that's kind of interesting because like she's not around to see the resolution of that case. I'm wondering if that's going to be the case in a lot of cases, that she's not going to be around for the resolution of, but she had to get out of town. Luckily, she had Sarah back, because initially Sarah's like, oh yeah, that lady, she left, I don't know where she is. And then she saw Cliff with the gun. She's like, actually, I think she said something about LA and pointed them in the wrong direction. I'm like, good on you, Sarah, because Sarah helped solve what happened to Damien. So it's like, yo, this woman's a good lady. She's on the run from some people. Like, I'm going to help her out, Because it's like, well, these guys are clearly not cops, because if they were, would have came in flashing badges. So would have been the first thing I saw. So yeah, that worked out beautifully. Then I wondered if Jed's uncle knew, I had a feeling early on, because when he overheard, like, God, I had to stop myself because I had to call her, I was about to say Natasha, I was about to call like Natasha Leone by her real name instead of like their character's name of Charlie, so I had to stop myself that sometimes I have to pause for that, but like, oh, don't call the actor by their real name, call them by the character they're playing. But when Jed's uncle, when Charlie confronted Jeb about it. Am I saying Jeb or Jed? Have I been switching that back and forth? I think it's Jed, right? Have I been saying Jeb the entire time? Or was it Jeb and it is like, whatever the case may be. I probably have been saying that. I might have been flip-flopping the entire time and not noticing it, or might have been getting it wrong the entire time. You know who I'm talking about. When Charlie's confronting him about all of this, his uncle went over and was like, oh yeah, sorry, my hearing aid was turned up too high. And I was like, so he probably heard all of that, right? But it's not until she left and took off, and it's not until then where Jeb's kind of looking like happy, like, yeah, good, she's gone. But then the uncle was like, yeah, someone messed with her brake line, so I fixed it. I was like, good on you. I was like, he overheard everything. And he's like, I took you in, I raised you, you were like a son to me. And he's trying to make his excuse. He's like, it wasn't me, it's her fault. I'm the victim here. But his uncle just takes his hearing aids out, and now it's just all muffled as he walked away because like, I don't want to hear this bullshit. He's like, I heard everything. Because it's like, oh, you don't have any evidence. It's like, but it was enough for him where he literally heard your confession about what you did, you know? And even though they were talking quietly-ish, even if he wasn't nearby, he said he was going to turn down his hearing aids. But even while he was away, like, I think they were already turned up high when he heard it. And then just probably like her brakes being clipped also added more to it. So he probably didn't want to make Jed like suspicious. So yeah, but we see the end where he ends up burning the ticket because it's like, it's ironic how like you thought, you know, your life was about to change, but now your life is about to change, not in a good way. It's over, you know, because you let your emotions get the best of you. You let the monotony of it all kind of get in your head, and you saw an opportunity, and you let your obsession take control of you. It's just a lot of stuff played up to that point, and now it's like, yeah, burn the ticket because that money's useless. You know, you let that get the best of you, and now it's like, yeah, it cost you your life. As the cops are rolling up, he's sitting on the roof with a beer in his hand. So you're just kind of like, yep, another case solved. And like I said, it's just interesting that Charlie's not around to see like the proper conclusion. But also, like I said, because Sarah came through, she does have some leeway. So wherever she goes next, as long as she's not going to LA, like, probably not, because her and Sarah had the conversation. That's why she said like, oh yeah, she loves the sand and swimming. It's like Sarah knows she would never go to LA because of that very reason. It's like, yeah, she didn't want to go to Hawaii because of like the sand, and swimming is not really her thing. So it's like, okay, so I picked a place that was kind of Hawaii-esque in that manner. That would be like the complete wrong direction. So as long as she's not going to LA anytime soon. But once again, it's going to be interesting to see how long she can keep them off her trail, because she has a very, very motivated person tracking her down. So a very, very angry father doing everything in his power to track you down. So, like I said, great episode. Once again, I love me a good whodunit and mystery and stuff like that. So, I mean, we kind of already. I mean, it's interesting because like you don't. I mean, it's something that not a lot of shows, but usually the thing is, it's always like a whodunit. Now it's always more of a, because like even she kind of described it this way in episode 1, if I remember correctly. It's about like immediately knowing who did it, who's lying, but now it's just a matter of unraveling it and figuring out, well, why? You know, because I know there's a show that was a crime drama called Motive. It's like you already know who did it. Now it's a matter of understanding why they did it. It's up to the cops to figure out who did it, but also like you as the audience member already know. I know another show that kind of built around that premise was The Sinner. The Sinner's kind of built around that premise as well. All of its seasons are kind of built around that premise. So yeah, I always think that's kind of an interesting perspective of having with a crime drama, especially because of how, like I said, that ties into like the opening of like we see who did it. It's just a matter of Charlie figuring out and seeing how she gets to the conclusion, and if you can figure it out, how Charlie's going to figure it out before Charlie actually goes through the process of figuring out. So yeah, it's just a lot of interesting developments and stuff. So I'm very excited to see where Charlie lands next and who's this new cast of characters is going to be. I think it's also interesting setup too to make it so like, well, aside from Cliff, who will probably pop in from time to time, for the most part, Natasha Lyonne is going. Well, I should probably also just say, like, well, not just Cliff, but, Benjamin Bratt-esque Cliff. It's probably going to go pop in every once in a while. Whereas, like, Natasha Lyonne is going to be, like, for the most part, it seems like the only consistent character. I think that's such an interesting, like, when you're only following one single character, like, throughout an entire, like, series, because it's very, I said episodical last episode, but I meant, like, anthology light is what I want to like refer to it as. Where every episode is a new I mean, but that still fits. But it's an episodical anthology type of thing where it's just, like I said, she's the only character you're following through, but it still is the same overarching story. So that's why I call it anthology light. Um, so yeah, I just say that sets up like interesting and very interesting storytelling because very few shows follow only a single, like you only have one single recurring character, like all the way through. Like that, not many stories are told through that lens, but when they are, I always think that's such a fascinating lens to tell a story through. So, but yeah, I've been running my mouth off long enough. Like I said, excited to see where the next episode takes us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.